Hey everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 165 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I cannot be more excited to continue sharing with you guys personal finance topics that I think can be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. Today, we are going to be talking about not when you should be investing, but when you should not be investing, right? What are the times in life when we should be putting our investing on halt? Right? Putting it on pause in order to get other things done, in order to take care of other situations. And this is very important because if we know when we should not be investing, right? If we know when we should be conserving cash in any way possible, then we will be better off when those situations do happen to occur throughout the course of our investing lives. Before we get started though, if you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, then make sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to create a financial plan that's specific to you and your family and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just go to my website, www.mnowithdylan.com. Click on the Work with Dylan tab, and you can choose the financial coaching session type that would work best for you, and we can begin pushing towards your long-term financial goals together. Now listen, before you knock on me too hard without even watching this episode or listening to what I have to say in this episode, believe you me, I love when people invest. I talk a lot about investing on this show. I talk a lot about how you should be investing on this show and when you should be investing on this show, right? But I am not ignorant to the fact that there are moments in life, there are times in life when we should not be investing, right? And there are times throughout the course of our financial action plan when investing is not the best thing to do. And we need to take care of other things first. There are other things that are priority to investing. And there are times when we have been investing that we need to stop, that we need to put it on pause. We need to do something different for some period of time and allow ourselves to get our financial footing and then get back into the investing space and then allow ourselves to invest with a lot of intensity, with a lot of fervor, right? So I want to talk about a few things today. I want to talk about not only when we should put things on pause, but throughout the course of the financial action plan, how and when we should be investing if you are following our guidelines there, if you are following the plan there. So that's where we'll start. We'll start with the financial action plan and when you should and should not be investing within the financial action plan. Now let's just start from the outset with the first part of the financial action plan, obviously, is creating a unique monthly budget. And in creating this unique monthly budget, this is you telling your money where to go. This is you allocating your money and telling it where to go within the next month, within the next few weeks, however often you are budgeting. It should be at least monthly though. And in doing this, you're also allocating any investments that you have. So if you haven't budgeted yet, you shouldn't be investing, right? If you haven't budgeted and understood where your money is going, you shouldn't be allocating any of that money towards investments. You shouldn't be choosing to invest money that you don't know where it's going, right? So we should be budgeting. Now, you can spend an evening getting a budget done and getting it ironed out with your spouse and your family, and you're all good, right? So that doesn't take long. It doesn't take long to get that first part done. But then the second part comes and it says, okay, let's build up a month's worth of expenses as an emergency fund. Well, if you don't have a month's worth of expenses, if you don't have the ability to cover a month, you don't have the ability to cover an emergency that is a month of the expenses of your household, then you really don't need to be investing. You don't need to be putting money away into things like retirement accounts that are going to have age restrictions and are going to limit your ability to get your hands on your money. You don't need to be investing money that you're just going to take out at the first sign of needing it and not allowing it to compound for your future. You don't need to be doing that if you don't have at least 1 month's worth of expenses to be putting away into a savings account to just allow that money to sit as a small buffer until we get into some of the larger buffers later on in the financial action plan. So if you don't have a budget and you don't have 1 month's worth of expenses, you should be investing nothing. You should not be investing a thing if you don't have those two things in place ready to go. Now, if you do have those two things in place, then I start giving you a little more within the financial action plan, right? I tell you, okay, if you've got those things in place, then let's look and see if you have an employer-sponsored retirement account that offers a match. And if you do, let's invest and let's get that free money. That's the first time I tell you within the financial action plan, go after it, go invest, right? And the barriers to entry to that step are very low, right? Getting to where you have a budget done and have 1 month of expenses is not, that's not a big barrier to overcome. So you can get over that quickly and get into this third part. Now, if you don't have an employer-sponsored retirement plan that offers a match, then you may have to wait a little longer, okay? Because then we get past that third part and we get into the fourth part, which is paying off all your consumer debt other than your home. And depending on how much consumer debt you're in, this can make you wait a while before you actually get to start investing. And that's okay because we've talked about before, debt is a strain on our cash flow. We are strained by debt. We don't have as much cash flow to allocate towards our investments if we are deeply in debt, right? And so maybe you're getting the free money of an employer match, maybe you're not, but even if you aren't, you shouldn't be pushing to invest if you have debt outstanding, if you have debt that is keeping you from taking all of your check to the house, okay? Now, you would think after that, okay, I got done, pay off my debt, now can I invest? One more thing, right? You have to build up a proper emergency fund, right? 1 month of expenses is not a proper emergency fund. It is not going to cover you properly if certain things occur in your life. So you need the 4 to 6 months of expenses that I request you to have in the fifth part of the financial action plan as an emergency fund before you really get started investing in large numbers. And so you get that in place, right? And again, these first 5 steps can take as long as your situation allows, right? If you're deeply in debt, it's going to take longer, right? If your income is lower, it's going to take longer. If you are living too high on the hog, as they say, if you're living too close to your means, if you're not living enough below your means, then it is going to take longer. So it can take as little or as long time as your financial situation calls for. But hopefully it doesn't take long and we can get to this 6th part of the financial action plan quite quickly. And then you can invest at least 15% of your income for your future, for your kids' future, for their college accounts, and for your future. Your future obviously should come first with retirement accounts, brokerage accounts, all these different types of things, investing in mutual funds, stocks, bonds, ETFs, all these different types of things that you can invest in, and allowing your money to start compounding for you, right? Now, we're in this place, right? We have this place where we're like, okay, we've done all these things. We've gotten everything in order, right? And that's really the whole point of the first 5 parts of the financial action plan is that you're getting your life in order, right? You're getting your financial life in order because I want your financial life to be in order before you start really building, right? You need to lay a foundation before you can start building. You can't just build a house on dirt, right? You have to lay a foundation, right? Have to lay a foundation within that dirt. You have to make it to where it's flat and it's level and that you can build on top of it. You can't make it to where it's all slanted and things are going to fall off whenever the first sign of wind or rain or any type of trouble comes along, right? Because some of you homeowners understand that if the foundation is not well set, right? If they don't make the foundation the way it should be done, then little things can really turn into big issues. They can turn into big issues in your life. In the same way, if you don't set a good financial foundation before you're investing in large amounts, then you may have little things in your life that turn into really big things. You may have bills that pop up or medical bills that pop up, or you may have emergencies that pop up that don't allow you to continue in your financial life the way you were going, and they set you back even further than they should because you did not lay the financial foundation that you should have laid. So let's say that you make it to the 6th part though. Let's say you do lay the good foundation. Let's say you do get out of the habit of living paycheck to paycheck. You do get back ahead on your bills. You get all these things in place. What are some times when we should stop our investing? What are some times where we should put our investing on pause, where we should say, okay, maybe at this point I don't need to be investing. Maybe it's not smartest for me to continue to do so. Well, let's say, and this is a sad occurrence, but let's say you were to lose a family member. Let's say that your spouse or a child or somebody were to pass away, right? At that point, you should stop investing, right? At least for a short period of time. Why? Because in that time of grief, right? In that time of, a lot of ambiguity, a lot of uncertainty, then you need to make sure that you have as much money in your pocket as possible to take care of the things that need to be taken care of, right? I know when these emergencies occur, you can use your emergency fund, but you may need to put your investing on hold in order to just get your feet under you before you continue your investing. Not only that, if it's your spouse and the investment account that the money's going into is an IRA or a 401k in your spouse's name, you may want to put that on pause because obviously your spouse is not going to be working anymore if they're no longer here. So it's something that could really make your financial position change, right? But you have to give yourself some time. You have to give yourself some time for your emotions to settle, right? Especially if you receive some type of life insurance from your spouse or from whoever passed away. Give it a little bit of time because you don't want to just rush to invest that money or rush to do something with that money too quickly, right? It can make a big difference in your life. It can change everything. It can really help you to weather the storm if your spouse has passed. But we don't want to be too hasty in trying to make decisions, especially decisions that are grounded in grief, right? Make sure that you can keep the bills paid, keep a roof over your head, especially if your spouse was the primary breadwinner, right? Put things on pause, make sure that everything is good and everything is as normal as it can be, and get back to a new sense of normalcy, and then allow yourself to step into that place where you can pick up your investing again. Again, these things occur. These are sad things. These are sad occurrences. But if this type of occurrence happens, then you need to be prepared to press pause at least for a short period of time. Now, there are other situations in which we should also be pressing pause with our investing. One of which is when we lose a job, right? Or when a spouse loses a job. Now, this is just in order to make sure, right? Let's say it's a 2-income household, right? And let's say you can live on one of your spouse's incomes, whichever one it is, and the other one loses their job. Well, what you need to make sure is that one, you can actually live on that other person's income because you are getting used to living on a higher income than what you're going to have coming in if somebody has lost their job, at least for a short period of time. So you need to make sure you can live on that person's income, and you need to make sure that any investing that you may do based on that person's income, it may need to be dialed back because it's based on a lower income amount. So pressing pause for a moment just to get your feet under you and figure out what's going on is perfectly fine there. Not only that, let's say it's a 1-income household, or maybe not just one income, but one major income. Somebody is the primary breadwinner that we're really living on that person's income. Well, if that person no longer works, if that person is out of a job, then it's going to be very vital that you stop your investing for some period of time, because you cannot continue to put money away that you aren't making. You can't allocate income towards investing if there's no income coming in to allocate, right? We allocate our income to invest. We don't just throw money in regardless of whether we're making money or not. We're only putting money away if we are making money, if we are making some type of income. So a job loss can be huge, and not only a job loss, right? But let's say you and your spouse were both working, and one spouse wants to stay home for some period of time, right? They want to stay home with the kids, maybe just had a baby or something. Maybe putting it on pause for just a moment there to make sure that you can live on one income is a good idea. Again, when I'm talking about a pause like that, I'm talking about an extremely short-term pause, just enough to get an idea of what you actually need to be doing and get an idea of whether or not you can actually survive on the income that your family is bringing in. And so making sure that you can do that is great, and then just stepping right back into investing in whatever amount is necessary when you're in that specific place, especially if you're in the 6th part of the financial action plan. So then what about if you're expecting a child, right? When you're expecting a child, you may want to push pause on your investing for some period of time. And the reason that this is that you want to make sure that you have adequate money stacked up in case something is to occur. You want to make sure that you can get that baby and mom home from the hospital as safely as possible and as quickly as possible, with as few hiccups as possible, and do it with cash, because we don't want to be in a position where, yeah, we've laid a good foundation for ourselves, we've allowed ourselves to be in a good financial place, and then you have a baby, which is a very exciting thing. It's a fun time, and then something bad were to happen, something negative were to occur. The baby has to stay in the hospital for some time. Mom has to stay in the hospital for some time. And then you are out a lot of money that you may not have, or that your emergency fund may not be able to fully cover, right? And so maybe you need to press pause for a little while and build up assets to make sure that even if something does occur, you can take care of it. And that amount is really based on what your maximum out of pocket would be from your insurance. Because you need to know, even if something were to occur, what is the most I should end up paying? What is the most I could end up paying out of my own pocket? And to have that amount of money set aside, or somewhere close to that amount of money set aside for yourself, is a good idea. Now, this is not being irrational, right? We're not saying, let me plan for the worst case scenario, but things do happen. And we don't want to allow one occurrence in our lives, one thing that may happen, right? Because just in having a child, you increase your likelihood of something like that happening, right? And in adding a human to the mix, adding somebody else where something could go wrong, then you may want to prepare for those types of things if you're having a child. But once you build up enough, right? Once you build up whatever you perceive as a proper amount for you and your spouse, or just you to have, right, in order to cover whatever needs covering with the birth of that child, then yes, by all means, step back into the place of investing and just continue to move forward in that place. And so that is a situation in which we may want to push pause. We may also want to push pause if anything major medical occurs that we don't have the money for. You definitely need to push pause in this place, right? Because if I don't have the money to cover some major medical event, if I have cancer, or have some type of major surgery or something where the costs are going to be extremely high, and I don't have the money in my emergency fund to continue covering these costs, I need to worry more about covering these costs and staying out of medical debt than I do about putting money away for retirement or investing for the future or whatever it may be. I need to make sure that I can take care of myself in the short term, right? I need to make sure that I can cover my needs today and not go back into debt, or not go into debt for the first time before I worry about my investing life. And so we want to make sure that we can take care of that. We can take care of any major medical events that may come along. And then, of course, step right back into the place of investing. And you may be saying, like, yeah, Dylan, but this sounds like a lot of situations in which you should stop investing. It may sound like it, right? But a lot of these situations can be properly planned for, right? A lot of these situations, if you have the proper money set aside, if you have a situation where it's a 2-income household, if you have things that are good contingency plans, or let's say you lose a job and you can get back in the job market relatively quickly and just maybe live on your emergency fund for a month or whatever it may be, then you can actually come out of this place quite quickly and get right back to investing expediently, right? I don't want you to be out of the investing game. I want you to be investing. I want you to be putting money into retirement accounts. The primary indicator of having money, having a nice nest egg at retirement, is not rate of return, is not what you invest your money in. It is the fact that you actually invested money. It's the fact that you actually put money away for your future, and in doing so, you were able to build up a good nest egg for yourself and your family. And so I want you to be doing that. I want you to be putting money away. I want you to be doing so systematically, but there are situations where you may need to pump the brakes just a bit, and those are some of them. And now let's just take a step back for just a moment and talk about some of those specific situations within the financial action plan, and talk about why you should not be investing in those particular places, because I think that's important. I think that's important for us to hit on in order for some of you to better understand what I'm talking about, to better understand the process, to better understand the fact that you should not be investing in some of the earlier stages of the financial action plan, right? I see a ton of people right now in college, right? Or in their early lives, especially college kids, right? Who are putting money into the stock market, who are putting money into Bitcoin and all these different types of things because they have this FOMO, right? This fear of missing out. They have this just want to keep up with everybody else and do the cool thing, the fad, whatever the fad is. And the stock market has become quite the fad. Well, these kids, in most cases, don't have some type of emergency fund saved up. They don't have gainful employment in most cases, right? Some of them may. And many of them may also be in student loan debt. And yet they are still investing money or speculating with their money in financial markets, which is absolutely wrong. It's absolutely something you should not be doing. Not only are you not in the correct place in the financial action plan, but you're in school, right? Your primary objective as a student, as a college student, should be to make sure that you get out of college with no student loans. And if you already have student loans, then make sure that you can get out of college without taking on more student loans. You should not be using your money to invest or to even speculate, right? Because I've talked before about speculation and how if you're going to speculate, you should at least be actually investing first and then speculate with a small portion of your money. But they want to speculate with a vast majority of their own net worth, which is extremely low at that particular point in time. And I mean, it's just not a smart thing to do. It's not smart at all to dip your foot into financial markets without the proper foundation set. Again, if you don't set the foundation, if you don't do the proper things to align yourself financially from the get-go, then you are going to struggle to build the financial house, to build the financial mansion maybe that you want to build, right? You're not going to be able to build that financial house up in the way that you want to if you are continuing to do irresponsible things with your money. Now, another situation where you may need to take a step back, even if you are in a good place financially, but most people in this situation are not in a good place financially, right, is if you have some type of gambling issue, right? If you are very prone to gamble, if you're very prone to take money and throw it away or take money and speculate extremely, because speculating extremely heavily in financial markets is gambling. It's the same thing. I mean, the risk of loss may be slightly lower. You may not lose everything, but the risk of loss in some amount is still extremely high, right? And speculating in things you don't know, you might as well be gambling. And so these individuals should stop. You should stop investing or speculating until you can get a proper head on your shoulders, until you can allow yourselves to get some help and to work out of this particular addictive behavior that you are currently in. You do not need to be in a place where you're trying to, invest money. You're trying to grow money for your future, but you're addicted to the thrill, right? You're addicted to the ups, and you are, deeply pained by the downs, but it only leaves you wanting more, right? We don't need to be there. We don't need to be in that place and be investing. So that would be a very serious place that not investing would be extremely important. Now, within the financial action plan, if you are, in the place where you should be investing, maybe in the third part or in the sixth part or beyond, right? You shouldn't invest in things that you don't understand. So it's okay to take a little time to get to understanding investments. It's okay to take a little time to learn about what mutual funds are, about what ETFs are, about what stocks do, about what bonds do, about how financial markets work. It's okay to get a little knowledge as far as those things go. Hopefully I'm helping you to gain some of that knowledge day after day on this show. But gaining that knowledge is paramount, because I've told you before and I'll tell you again, we don't invest in things that we don't understand. You need to be investing only in things that you understand. You need to only be putting your money into things that you understand, right? Why do we buy homes? We buy homes because we understand what a house is. We understand what a home is. We understand the importance of a place to live. We understand the value that is inherent to living somewhere, right? Why do people buy farms? Because they can look at the farm and go, okay, well, I can yield this crop from this farm and sell that crop and make money from that crop. I see the utility, I see the use from that farm. Why do people buy cars? They buy cars because they need to get from point A to point B, and the most cost-effective way in most places is to purchase a vehicle for yourself. And so doing all of these things, right, is no different than investing your money in the stock market. You need to understand when you're investing. You need to understand where your money is actually going, because I don't want you to be blindly putting money into something and thinking that you're doing great, thinking that you're, hey, I'm investing, I'm doing it, and you're actually not doing it correctly. You're actually not doing something that's going to be extremely beneficial. Far too often do I see people who are like, oh yeah, I invest in my 401k. I put money away in my 401k. And they may even put away really good amounts of money in their 401ks. But they're putting money away and maybe it's not being invested in anything. Maybe it's being invested into something that is typically far lower in risk than what their risk tolerance would allow. Maybe they're putting money away into the 401k and it just goes into a cash account, right? This is not what we want. We don't want that to be the case. We want to know where our money is going. We want to know what our money is being invested in. We need to understand the types of accounts that we're putting our money away into: IRAs, 401ks, brokerage accounts, HSAs. We need to know what's occurring within those accounts and be active, right? Be understanding of what is happening within those accounts. Don't just sit by and allow whomever or whatever company to make decisions for you, because honestly, the decisions that get made for you are commonly not in your best interest, but in the interest of those who are making the decision. So make the best decision for you, and you need to be aware of what you are invested in. But once you know, right, once you have a good idea of what to invest in and you have some basic knowledge as to how investing works, hopefully I'm helping with that day by day as well, then you can start putting money away into things. And then maybe you can, as you learn more, make some minor adjustments here or there. But we've talked before about how simple investing can be and how simple it can be to put money away for your future. But if you don't understand things, you should not be investing for your future. And that's not to say that you have to understand everything when it comes to investments. You have to understand the entire financial world. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying understanding enough to be able to make logical investment decisions and grow your money for the future. And that does not take a lot of time. That does not take a ton of effort, but it does take time and it does take effort. But you have to make those decisions for yourself, and you have to put yourself in the right positions financially within those investments to grow for the future. And if you're not doing that, then the investing that you're doing is likely to not be worth what it could possibly be worth in the future. Now, I don't tell you to pause investing for some of the things like, if you're saving up for a home, I don't tell you to pause investing. I don't tell you to pause for investing if you're trying to make any other large purchases, right? Because investing is extremely important. It is extremely important to be putting money away for your future. I don't want you to put it on pause just because you're trying to save up for something else. If you're in the right place in the financial action plan, you should have adequate income in order to allocate some towards saving up for whatever you want to save up for, or doing whatever thing you're trying to do within your financial life. So I don't tell you to put it on pause for many things that some people would say put it on pause for. But I subscribe to the idea that the foundation must be strong. Your financial foundation needs to be strong before you're putting money away into investment accounts in droves. You need to have a strong foundation in order to build upon with the investments that you put away. Once that foundation is built, go haywire. Go invest with a lot of intensity, a lot of intentionality, and build up a nest egg for your future. But until you get that foundation set, until you do some of those correct things financially, you need to sit on the investing sideline and allow yourself to still be gaining knowledge, still be preparing for that time when you can invest, and then when the time comes, really hit it hard and do it over the long term. And don't allow yourself to fall into places where you have to stop investing all the time because you don't have money to take care of an emergency, or stop investing all the time because you're too deep in debt and you can't cover your debt payments, or your house costs too much and you can't cover your house payment. Whatever it may be, we want to be investing for the long term, and we want to keep doing it systematically until the cows come home and until we decide to retire. So thanks for watching this video. If you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, then be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to create a financial plan that is specific to you and your family's needs and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just go to my website, www.MNOwithDylan.com. Click on the Work with Dylan tab, and you can choose the financial coaching session type that would work best for you, and we can begin pushing towards your long-term financial goals together. So tune in Monday and get my opinion on bankruptcies and foreclosures and how we should navigate those if such tragedy occurs in our financial life. So thanks for tuning into this episode of Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.